From Barangaroo Studios, the AusBiz COB is the key stuff you need to know about the day in business and finance.
Hello, welcome to the COB. I'm Juliette Sarli and I have a new face, Sue Lannon, next to me. Great to see you, Sue.
Thank you. It's great to be with AusBiz.
Now, an interesting day as we kickstarted the new year, Sue. It's really sort of the first full trading week that we've got. We had sort of a positive session, but we've petered off a little in the afternoon trade. Sort of this battle, I guess, again, between tech and mining players.
Yeah, really ran out of steam. As you can see, the CBO 200 just ending flat, as did the ASX 200. We've really seen mining stocks weigh on the market today. On Friday, it was really big gains on Wall Street. Probably if you had a Santa Claus rally, maybe that was a mini one.
Yeah.
But optimism just hasn't been sustained today. I think one of the reasons a lot of people are away on holiday and mining stocks make up a big percentage weighting on the market. So they've certainly been weighing.
Absolutely, and it all sort of happened in that last sort of hour or so. So that sort of gets to the themes though, and we had New Year, same tech game, because you talked there about Wall Street, and it really has been, once again, these big tech players kind of driving those gains. Is it going to be the same in 2025? We're going to hear from NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, later tonight potentially, or this week at least, and get some really clear ideas on that thematic. But I don't know about the conversations you've had today. A lot of the conversations I've had has really been about AI, again, expecting to be a dominant force this year.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just such a huge force. It's transforming everyone. It's transforming our jobs. It's transforming business, job applications. But I wonder, one of the conversations I've had today, can this be sustained? Will we see the hype achieve reality? The valuations also of the Mag 7 are just incredibly high. You know, Apple is the world's most valuable company. Nvidia is next. And because there's so many uncertainties this year, especially with the Trump presidency, it'll be interesting to see whether these record highs in the share market can actually be sustained.
Exactly. All right, we also talked about takeover fever. We'll get into that in a little bit. That's that Insignia Financial takeover. And a big week ahead. We've got CPI data. We've got the non-farm payrolls out of the US. So a lot for investors to digest this week. Yeah,
and it's interesting, the unemployment rate in the US has actually been, it's around 4.2%, so the Fed sees that as full employment. So the question is, are they done with cutting rates? And the risk of the Trump presidency, increased tariffs, is higher inflation.
Yep, we're going to discuss all of that with our guest coming up as well. But quickly, let's just flip through the sectors of the day. We talked about the tech players mostly doing well. Zip was one of the best performers, rising by 3%. Xero and WiseTech Global also looking good. Sue mentioned, of course, the miners really weighing, so you can have a look at some of the share price moves there. BHP, Rio both down by about 2%, and Fortescue just holding above $18. And then when we have a look at the energy players, I mean, they were looking pretty good out of the blocks, but Woodside higher by the end of the day, Santos off by about 0.4%. Getting into some of the top stories today, and what happened with Insignia, Sue?
Yeah, well, we did see a takeover offer from Insignia Financial, another one. This is from CCC Capital Partners. That's valued at $4.30 a share. That's nearly $3 billion. So possibly more consolidation in the financial space. And just remembering, Insignia Financial is the old IWOF, and of course the Banking Royal Commission saw huge shake-up in the banking industry, and big companies, big banks having to hive off their smaller arms and their troubled, scandal-ridden arms.
Yeah.
Local liquor and beer stocks are in focus after the US Surgeon General outlined a direct link between alcohol consumption and heightened cancer risk, and called for warning labels. So, Juliette, we saw in Australia Treasury wine estates dipped on that news.
Yeah, down by 2.4%. Interesting to see in the US on Friday, I think, as well. Quite a lot of those liquor stores coming under pressure. Bellevue Gold, the worst performer on the index, down over 13%, announcing its undercut production expectations in the December quarter.
And Drone Shield reversed its early advance on Monday. That's after the Drone Detection Technology Group announced a $9.7 million order from a major Latin American military customer. So the shares fell 2% today.
But Nine Entertainment did lift, and that's after it announced a new minority shareholder in the activist investment firm Bain Capital. All right, let's say Happy New Year and welcome to the COB, Josh Gilbert from eToro. Josh, good to be back. Good to see all our familiar friends again. Tell us, I guess, how you saw today's market action, because we thought we might have a positive start to the first full trading week of 2025.
Yeah, hi both. Happy New Year. Thanks for having me back. Good to be back as well. It was a pretty flat day all in all, wasn't it? We sort of started pretty well, as we said at the start, that sort of tailwind that we had from US markets on Friday, which sort of snapped a bit of a losing streak over in the US, and then we sort of slightly faded away. Look, I think coming back into markets today, there's a lot of worry over sort of the weakness that we're seeing in the Aussie dollar. Obviously, tech-led gains today, obviously coming from that sort of move that we saw from a lot of those tech winners from 2024 on Wall Street on Friday. And then we also saw materials sort of really dragging the index down right from the get-go today. So I think that was a bit of a big weight, on pulling the index down. And also we're probably still getting, had a quick look at the volumes today, and we are still seeing, low volumes as well. So it probably is going to be like that, I'd say, probably over the next week. It might heat up a little bit during the week when we get that sort of CPI data coming through. But yeah, maybe we can let it down to that sort of holiday hangover to sort of start the week.
And we saw oil prices rise though.
Yeah, look, I think we're going to sort of see commodities sort of play out to sort of be a big market in focus this year. Whether that is going to be from iron ore to oil, etc. It's one of those markets I think we get a lot of attention from our clients here at eToro. I think really coming from that, I still think geopolitical tensions are sort of playing a bit of a part in that as we sort of come into the new year. I think that's going to be a reason we're going to see, again, a lot of volatility, in that sort of sector coming through, getting a bit of love maybe from traders to sort of start the year. So, that helped obviously the energy sector locally as well, which again, a good start there for 2025.
All right, now a lot in focus this week, Josh. We mentioned a busy week, non-farm payrolls, also CPI data out of Australia. Of course, Michelle Bullock, no doubt, watching that closely and ahead of the next meeting. But then, of course, we're still going to get that quarterly print just before the RBA meets in February.
Yeah, again, I think the key focus for the week is going to be that inflation number. As you say, expectation is for headline to come in at sort of 2%. That's going to be down from the 2.1%. Look, maybe see some sort of volatility coming through. The expectation is we're going to see some slightly higher food costs coming through, fuel prices coming through in that number as well. We have seen since sort of maybe the last time I was on the show, the expectation of a rate cut sort of come up quite significantly. Having a look at pricing today, the expectation for a rate cut in February is a lot higher than sort of where we were previously. But I think that number this week is going to be a really key number. The RBA, if they are going to feel confident to sort of want to cut in February, they are going to want to see that number this week probably come in to under 2%, or at least in and around 2%. And that will certainly make for a pretty interesting quarterly number, which, as we know, is the RBA's sort of main focus. Again, really that trim number that we had, in December was higher than expected as well. So again, a key focus is going to be on that. Outside of that, we also get retail sales data this week as well. I think that's going to be pretty critical as well. We're going to have a really good insight into how consumers were sort of spending. That's obviously going to be the sort of the November print. So again, around Black Friday, we sort of saw a conversation whether consumers were sort of bringing forward spending. We saw a lot of sales over October to try and explore what that figure is going to be like for that November month. And then that will put a bit of a focus on the December figure as well, because did everyone sort of bring that spending forward to the sale months in October and November? And did they then stop spending and slow down in December? I'm not sure that will be the case. I think we'll probably sort of see that sort of follow through. But yeah, we'll probably get a pretty strong retail sales number this week, given that we probably saw a lot of spending before Christmas.
And Josh, just coming back to the CPI number, now, as you mentioned, the December figure coming in at the end of January. Over the September quarter, we saw the CPI rose 0.2%, 2.8% over the year. So do you think we'll see a significant pullback in inflation?
Look, I think from a month-over-month basis, I think we'll probably see that sort of edge up slightly. I think, on a yearly number, again, we'll probably start to, from a headline point of view, we might sort of start to sort of fall into where the RBA would like it to be, into that sort of 2 to 3% band. And I think that is, again, we're in there already, but sort of more for that trim number. If we can get into to sort of that band that the RBA is looking for, then that's going to be, pretty positive for them. That would be sort of the first time since 2021 if we were to get that on that trim number this week as well. So, look, I think we obviously saw that slowdown in October. I think, again, probably see that sort of resume in November this month. As I say, I think the key focus is really going to be on that trim number. So yeah, I do think we'll continue to see that number come back on a headline number on the sort of the yearly figure, but on a month-over-month number, we might see it pick up slightly.
All right, Josh, final quick question. I mean, new year, same themes. Bitcoin and Nvidia still in the headlines or the spotlight?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, Nvidia is probably going to really take center stage, I think, in the US this week. We've still got actually a bit of a shorter trading week in the US this week as well. So markets closed there on Thursday. But yes, we've got the SES conference this week in Las Vegas, and it's actually going to be tonight in sort of the US session. Jensen Huang is going to be speaking, and he's got a pretty big job on his hands. Again, we're coming off what was another magnificent year for Nvidia. Again, the chances of us getting that again is very unlikely, but we probably said that in 2023 as well. But again, after such a big year, investors are really going to see what he has to say for himself, right? We're going to see shareholders really looking to sort of what he has to say about customer demand. I think notably really going to be on those product rollouts coming from the Blackwell chips. That's going to be really important because that was sort of the focus of last year when we're sort of really going to see greater volumes being shipped out. We had Microsoft at the end of last year basically saying they can't get their hands on enough chips. So are we starting to see those sort of bottlenecks really coming to an end? And they've already had a great start to the year as well, up 7.5%. So if we hear good things from Mr. Huang this week, then that might continue. And as you say, yeah, really sort of seeing Bitcoin start the year on the front foot as well, sort of narrowing back in on $100,000. I think what we're continuing to see with a lot across risk markets, we saw it on Friday, any weakness sort of being brought up. And I think we saw that in Bitcoin to sort of start this week as well, closing back in on $100,000. We saw huge ETF inflows back into the Bitcoin ETFs on Friday as well. So I think really this year, we're obviously going to see a lot when President Trump sort of is inaugurated, when he takes office. So I think there's going to be a lot of volatility in the lead up to that. So January is going to be a pretty big month. But again, a lot of that is going to be in the price of Bitcoin already. For me, outside of just Bitcoin, going to be really looking into sort of the AI theme starting to take shape this year as well. We'll probably see the reemergence of sort of DeFi as well, decentralized finance. Some of those assets like Ethereum really underperformed against Bitcoin last year. I think they'll come to the forefront a little bit more this year, particularly when we're going to be getting more likely than ever clearer regulation, especially with Gary Gensler stepping down and a far more crypto-friendly SEC chair set to be appointed pretty soon.
All right, Josh, great to see you again. We'll chat again soon. Josh Gilbert there from eToro. All right, Sue, well, today, the stock of the day, speaking of that movement that, of course, we saw with Insignia, was Insignia Financial. David Lane from Ord Minnett and Kai Chen from MPC Markets joined Kylie on the call.
There might be a lot of synergies in terms of what they can use the segments for. So, potentially they're seeing that, certain segments are worth more in terms of the customer base for them. So that might be one of the reasons why they're offering a premium over what Bain offered. So I think, yeah, it is a good price, I think, which they're offering at $4.30. It's a 7.5% over what Bain was offering.
Probably important to point out that both Bain and CC Capital's bids are non-binding at this point in time, so they would have to go through due diligence and also jump through FIRB and a number of other hoops. So it's not necessarily a foregone conclusion, but it is positive, obviously, for Insignia shareholders. And if you can get two different parties or potentially even other parties interested, you tend to get that price war happening, and the bid price could go up higher.
Now let's have a look at what did the best on the market today. And of course, Insignia Financial was the standout performer on that takeover bid, up 14%. Uranium firms also did better on a rise in prices. DPLO rose more than 6%, Paladin Energy rose more than 5%, and Boss Energy rose more than 5% as well. Also, one of the leaders on the market was Block, the payments firm.
Yeah, indeed. All right, let's have a look at the laggards today, in a day when we kind of did just finish out on a slight wobble. Bellevue Gold there came up with a production update, sending its shares down 13%. Alcoa also coming under pressure, along with Johns Lyng, which was down almost 4%. Megaport off 3.5%, as was Kelsian Group. To the small end of town.
Now let's have a look at some of the small caps. The leaders, Cyclopharm, jumped nearly 22%. Brockman Mining up 13%. Nova Minerals rose nearly 12%. Imogene rose nearly 12%, and Rox Resources put on 10.3%.
And heading the other way in the small end of town, we saw Environmental off by 11%, Intelligent Monitor, Titomic, Findy, and Orthocell also among the laggards. Now tonight, Sue, we've got US factory orders looking pretty slim, but what's coming up tomorrow?
Yes, so tomorrow we've got building approvals for November, so that will be a good look at how the construction market is going at a time when we need many more houses and much more housing.
Indeed, and also worth noting tonight, as Josh Gilbert pointed out, we are going to hear from NVIDIA's Jensen Huang. So, of course, it'll be interesting to see the reaction in the share price and, of course, what happens broadly in tech stocks. But let's just see where the market has ended the day's trade, and really flat. I mean, you've got to say that's virtually unchanged there. On the CBO 200, we've discussed at length the fact that the miners really dragged us down amid thin trading volumes too. A lot of people still away. It was very easy to get a coffee this morning, Sue.
Yeah, it certainly was. And just the numbers for the ASX 200, it was flat as well. Actually closed up just 7 points. And as we've mentioned, the miners were the ones that were weighing on the market today.
Yeah, absolutely. Mining stocks down 1.5%. Everywhere else looked okay. But that does it for Monday. Hard to believe we're back. We're in 2025. We are going to join you live from 9:45 a.m. Eastern. Enjoy your evening. We'll see you then.
Good night.